He jumped and screamed, and, as he did, the face of the thing came up towards him. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. He screamed again and rushed to the door. He felt the thing touch his back and start to tear at his shirt. Things in the night, things in the house, screaming, running, staring. In these stories there are things that are worse than your worst dreams. Giant black spiders living in a tree. The terrible ghost that waits outside a window. Empty clothes that walk. The strange, thin woman who moves through a man's picture. The boy with the long, dirty fingernails, and a hole in his chest. The woman who screams from the bottom of a lake. And the dry, dusty old man who reads, but has no eyes. Here are 9 stories like no others you have read.
Montague Rhodes James was born in 1862 in a village in Kent, in the south of England, where his father was a vicar. From an early age, he loved old books and studied history, the Bible, languages and the books of past centuries at Cambridge University. He studied, lived, and worked at the university from 1882 to 1918. He began to write ghost and horror stories after reading the stories of Irish writer Sheridan L. E. Fanu. From the early 1890s, he read one of his own stories to friends at Christmas every year. His great knowledge of history gave his stories an unusual amount of detail, and his ghosts seem more real, and are more frightening than those of almost any other writer. Mr. James died in 1936. Chapter 1: The Ash Tree. Visitors to Castringham Hall in Suffolk will find it almost unchanged from the days when our story took place. They can still see the beautiful old house with its gardens and lake. However, the one thing missing is the ash tree, which used to stand, proud and tall, in front of the house, its branches almost touching the walls.
This story begins in 1690 with a strange, lonely old woman, Mrs. Mother Soul, who was found guilty of being a witch. Sir Matthew Fell, the owner of Castringham Hall at that time, described how she used to climb into the ash tree outside his bedroom every time there was a full moon. He said that she usually carried a strange knife to cut off parts of the tree, and that she talked to herself. Once he followed her home, but she disappeared, and when he knocked on the door of her house, she came downstairs in her night clothes looking sleepy. He and the villagers agreed that it was certain she did these things by magic, and so she was hanged. Before she died, she fought and shouted, and her last strange words were, "There will be guests at the hall."
After the hanging, Sir Matthew felt uncomfortable and guilty, and he told his friend the vicar about his worries. "You did the right thing, Sir Matthew," were the wise words of the vicar. "I'm sure she was a dangerous woman." Sir Matthew felt happier. That evening, Sir Matthew and the vicar went for a walk in the gardens of Castringham Hall. It was the night of the full moon. As they were returning to the house, Sir Matthew pointed to the ash tree in great surprise. "What kind of animal is that running down the ash tree? It looks very strange." The vicar only saw the moving animal for a moment, but he thought that it had more than 4 legs. He shook his head. "I